We are on the record.
I'd like to call the February 27th meeting of the Complaint Committee of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force to order.
Call the roll. Member Wolf. I have been informed by Member Wolf that he is a block away. He'll be here momentarily. Member Hinsey.
Present.
Hinsey present. Chair Tesfa.
Present.
Tesfa present. We have a quorum. There are no agenda changes that I know of at this time.
Can you call the next item? The approval.
Next on the agenda. I believe that I may have accidentally left off the approval of the last set of minutes on. Oh, here we go.
No,
Sorry.
I have it.
Sorry. I usually put it in bold and I didn't see it. Item number 2, approval of the January 23rd, 2018 Complaint Committee meeting minutes.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that motion. If we can take public comment on the approval of the January 23rd, 2018 Complaint Committee minutes. Seeing no public comment on that item, can we take that by acclamation?
Sure.
Yes, that motion is passed without objection with Member Wolf being absent.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on the matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction but not on today's agenda.
This is my general public comment, written 150-word summary. At the September 15, 2017 and February 21, 2008 meetings of the San Francisco Board of Permits and Appeals, Ann Trickey of the Arts Commission was directed to process a street artist permit application. DCA Brad Rusi explained to her this process twice on the public record. So today I'm here on the public record saying that I'm handing staff of the Arts Commission another street artist application, and I was told by the executive director that if they don't process this application, that I would file an appeal within 2 weeks. So owing to the fact that they're not in the room now and they come in, I will hand another application. This is the third that's on file that they say they don't have.
May I have that?
Yes.
Thank you, and please include those with the minutes. Do we have any other public comment at this time? Seeing none, public comment is closed.
Next on the agenda is item number 4, file number 17120, complaint filed by Ann Chabot against Ann Trickey and the Arts Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.13 and 67.15 B, C, and D by failing to provide an opportunity for members of the public to directly address a policy body without abridging or prohibiting public criticism of the policy, procedures, programs, or services of the city. May I ask, is there a representative from the Arts Commission present at this time? There is no representative at this time, but would you like to delay this to later in the meeting to see if they show up, or?
I would like to pose that question also to the petitioner and see if they would like to proceed without the respondent.
I would like to proceed. This was on the agenda. They certainly know about it. I'm diabetic, so, when I get tired.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Young, can you give the petitioner time, 3 minutes?
Yes, 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
What was the?
I believe the committee is at your discretion how you determine your time. There's no set rules for how the committee organizes. We do try to mirror the full task force, but there's nothing specific in writing.
I think we usually try to do that.
I also have an audio of the meeting.
Yes, 3 minutes.
I also have an audio of the meeting.
The audio will be part of your testimony. That's it would need to be part of your 3 minutes.
Oh, my God. So this concerns November 7th advisory meeting, which was a publicly noticed meeting and under the jurisdiction of the task force. There were a number of problems which I outlined in the brief. I stood up under general public comment, began reading, and almost immediately Ann Trickey began screaming that I can't say that, she's going to call the police. She, in quick form, she ran out of the room, and when she was out of the room, I read the 150-word summary in its entirety. It is there on the audio, entered into the public record. I said I was reading it, and at the end, I said that I am handing it over to a committee member, Carolyn Kunai, which she accepted. So this is a copy of the 150-word summary, which did not appear in the minutes at all. There were the guards came in a couple times. They had their hands on me. They're calling police. I'm going to prison. It's all there on the audio. I said nothing. I was not disruptive in any way. I was more focused on making sure that I recorded the event. There was one response which appeared on page 68 of the packet. The Sunshine Ordinance 6715 A and B and 6716 don't apply. There were no supporting documents at the meeting. I said a number of times, you're abridging my public comment, you need to reset the clock, and Tricky refused to do so. She also cited California Government Code 5495 4.3a, which does not exist, and I have here the code, and 5495 4.3c also doesn't exist. And then she cited Government Code 5495 6a, and that does not pertain to the statements that they referenced on page 68 of your packet. They use the next request system when filing public documents. That next request 171131 was never published, and when it's not published, it's not made available even to me. The next request doesn't support audio files, and on November 8th at 2:49 p.m., Kay Patterson, I guess she's responding. She never signs the things, and other people respond also, says, I now have access to the audio. I never had access to the audio. I went up there to their office on the next day, November 8th, and she had the wrong date of this advisory meeting up on a laptop. I wasn't allowed to touch the laptop, and I never got to listen to it. I have the audio queued up if you want to listen. There were no supporting documents at the meeting, and there were problems with how the minutes were written.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is anyone present from the Arts Commission to speak on this item? No? Okay. I have a few questions for you, Ms. Trabue. Member Hinsey, do you have any questions to start?
Not at this time.
Okay. Ms. Trabue, did the agenda for this advisory meeting include an opportunity for public comment?
Yes, that's what started this. I included a copy. It was item number 2, I believe.
Thank you. And were you given 3 minutes to speak?
Absolutely not. I did not even get one sentence out. She was going wild. Okay. I continued to say 5 times, you're abridging my public comment. You need to reset the clock. She wanted to, I'm going to jail. I'm calling the police. It's there on the audio if you want to listen.
Were you prevented from speaking because you were criticizing the policy, procedures, or programs of the Arts Commission?
I don't believe so. I was just factually recounting what took place at the Board of Permits and Appeals on September 15th.
Do you recall why they weren't letting you speak at the meeting?
I don't know. It was never explained to me. The attachment, which was the response of the Arts Commission, was just a written statement that they may read beforehand. So no, only when the minutes posted and I believe they were altered prior to November 15th. That item number, general public comments, said there was no general public comment.
Okay, so you weren't given a reason why you weren't able to speak?
No, I was not.
Okay. I have one more question, if you just give me a moment. And for the record, Chair Bruce Wolf is present. And for your complaint under 67.13, barriers to attendance prohibited, there are you referring to, you said, the officers that were in the room that were preventing you from speaking?
I spent 2 hours listening to the audio today. Because it's on a CD disc, it's very hard to find the technology to play that. It's an old form. Ann Trickey said on several occasions, you have to leave. No reason given.
Okay.
And
so that's what you're talking about under 67.13, barriers to attendance.
I said the words barriers to attendance prohibited.
But were you allowed to be in the room?
I continue to stay.
Okay. So
At one point, I sent Bill Graham, the director of security, an email, and he responded, but he didn't come in the room, so I did go out and talk to him.
Let me restate my question. Were you allowed to attend the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. So under 67.13 there, it's talking about barriers to attending the meeting. Were you able to attend the meeting?
I cited the words barriers to attendance prohibited because they were inviting me out of the room forcibly.
They were forcing you out of the room?
They had their hands on me.
Okay, thank you. Those are all of my questions for now. I want to allow Member Wolf to get situated, and I see that the respondent is present, so the respondent will have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Rebecca Krell, representing the Arts Commission. So this item was about us requesting that the public comment be pertinent to the jurisdiction under the committee's review. And we have a verbal preamble that we give before the meeting stating that policy and procedure and directly quoting from the law. And I believe that is in your packet, that verbal statement. At no time was Ms. Trubeau asked to leave the meeting or told that she couldn't attend. I understand that at one point she got on her cell phone and was speaking loudly, and that was disruptive to the meeting. So we do request that if people have a conversation, if they take the conversation out of the room and then come back, when their conversation is finished. And then in terms of the public comment, she was just asked to please remain on topic and just to address items under the jurisdiction of that particular body.
I do have a few questions. The petitioner mentioned that there were officers that were trying to forcibly have her leave the room. Mm-hmm. And so that would be in response to Section 67.13, barriers to attendance prohibited. Do you have a response to that statement?
Sure. I'm just looking here at our notes, which I believe are included in your packet. When she was asked to confine her public comment, Ms. Trubeau physically grabbed the speaker's podium and repeatedly yelled loudly into the meeting room, disrupting the meeting. So the presiding officer of the meeting suspended the proceedings in order to get a building security guard to assist with her extremely disruptive behavior. And that is on the audio at 6:11 and again at 8:09. She refused to cooperate with the building security guard and began yelling about calling the police. Once she finally subsided, the meeting was able to continue. So it's just when the behavior becomes so disruptive that the meeting and the business cannot continue, then that was the result.
And earlier you mentioned a verbal statement that's given at the beginning of the meeting. What is the purpose of that verbal statement?
Sure. It's to let the members of the public know, and also remind our advisory committee members, all of whom are new, just what the rules and regulations that govern a public meeting are.
And on the agenda for that meeting, was public comment included?
Oh, yes.
Do you believe that Mr. Wu was given 3 minutes to give public comment at that meeting uninterrupted?
No, she was interrupted because her comments were not pertaining to the jurisdiction of the body.
We don't have the audio link for this in the packet, do we?
Was the audio for this included in the packet?
It was not included part of the packet, but I believe Mr. Poe has it queued up if you would like to listen to it.
I'm not so concerned with the contents of it. I'm just concerned about it getting into the packet. We're just making sure everything is there so that if this matter goes before the full task force, all of the members have the information.
I could pull it off the online website and make it part of the packet.
It's not online. We did send it to you. So it's not a policy body. We record the meetings as a public service, but we're not required to. So they're not posted, but they're available, and we sent them to you. Yeah.
I will double check. It may have been part of one of the emails. And
Okay. I just want to make sure that before this matter goes before the full task force. So just to let you guys know where I'm going, I believe that we have all of the information for these. I'm not saying whether or not I believe the information supports, a finding on any of these, but I believe we have all of the information besides the audio recording, which will be important. So I just want to make sure that if this moves forward, that we make sure that that's included in the packet for all of the task force members. Are there any other questions?
So I have a question. Is the microphone on? Microphone.
yeah, they're on.
It's on? Okay. This advisory committee, how is it created?
So the commission approves recommendations to the mayor, and the mayor makes an appointment.
No, but how did the advisory committee get created?
Oh, it's created in the law in the police code that governs the street artist program. It's established in that law, in that ordinance.
Okay. And all the committee members are appointed by the mayor?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Member Hinsey, do you have any further questions?
No, I just want to make sure that, again, the audio recording will be important for the full hearing, so just want to make sure that gets included.
Do we have do we want to hear rebuttals? Everyone's ready for that? Okay. So we would be hearing from the respondent first.
I have no further information.
From the petitioner?
Rebecca Krill was not present at the meeting. That was not an accurate accounting of what took place. The advisory committee was created by charter mandate. It's there in the charter. She didn't cite the police code. She's incorrect. It's Article 24 of the police code, and that is not included in that. So, and it is a policy body, and it must follow the rules of the Sunshine Ordinance. I have additional documents, portions of the audio where these events took place, and so I have difficulty with the Arts Commission just emailing you a version of the meeting because it does not post online. How do I know that they didn't alter it? I don't, especially when I made repeated efforts to try and inspect the original audio and it was denied. to me, so I can't say definitively that they're going to send you the authentic version of what took place. These are additional documents to support my claims. If you could include them in the file for the hearing.
Thank you. At this time, I am leaning towards including the audio recording in the record for all of the members. I would also like, if Mr. Young has a copy of it, which I'm assuming he does, in order to include the recording in the record, for it also to be sent to the petitioners so that the petitioner can review the audio recording and bring any objection to its authenticity at the time of the full task force meeting. And if there are concerns about the authenticity of the recording, then we can decide not to have it included at that time and to deal with only the rest of the records that are in the packet. Do we have any motions at this time or questions?
I would also add that that we get some verification on how this advisory committee, what its classification is. Maybe we can get our legal counsel to provide us with some advice, because this looks like it was part of a voter or approved ordinance. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not just skimming it. It's not quite clear to me how it's formed and whether or not it is in a policy body or not.
Okay, so perhaps before this appears on the agenda, we can have DCA COLA draft a memo on the origins of this advisory body, its creation, and where he recommends that it fits within the Sunshine Ordinance.
Right. With that, I'll move all those items.
Just to summarize, it's a motion to find that the task force has jurisdiction over the matter and to refer the matter to the full task force for hearing, request that a copy of the audio be included as part of the file and that it be provided to the petitioner, and to request that City Attorney Cola provide a memo regarding the origins of this body.
Thank you. Do we have a second to that motion? Second. Do we have any public comment on that motion? Seeing no public comment, please call the roll.
On that motion, Member Wolf.
Aye.
Wolf, aye. Member Hensy.
Aye.
Hensy, aye. Chair Tesfa.
Aye.
Tesfa, aye. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Yes. Next on the agenda, item number 5, file number 18003, complaint filed by Anthropo against the Arts Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.7, 67.20, 67.25, and 67.27 by failing to make supporting documents available, failing to respond to immediate disclosure requests in a complete manner, and failing to provide justification for withholding records.
3 minutes.
Yes.
One
moment, if you can let Mr. Young get situated.
Yeah. The heading on this should be Kate Patterson Murphy and the Arts Commission, since she was responsible. She's the custodian of records. So the timeline was January 8th. I sent Sharon Page Ritchie an IDR. I received notice later in the day that the request was closed but not published. When it's not published, once again, I don't have access to the information. It was published on January 12th after I filed the formal complaint on January 9th. So there were additional problems. Kate Patterson Murphy sent, well, on January 1st, the task force sent here's an open complaint, please respond to it. And on February 2nd, Kate Patterson emails the response to Victor, but doesn't include the PDF attachment, which is the response and any responsive documents. So I emailed back, copying Victor and Kate Patterson Murphy, that there was no PDF attachment. I didn't receive your response. I got nothing. On February 5th, the task force emails me saying he will send me a copy of the response, and I email back again saying there's no PDF attached to this, so I don't know what the response is. So February 5th, Kate Patterson emails the task force a response, and once again, I'm copied again, but there's no PDF attached. So on February 9th, still having not received anything because it's not published. The response may have gone to Victor. Part of it may have wound up in your packet. I never got it. So when it posted online was when I saw only a portion of the response, which is the January 12th letter to Victor Young. She didn't include any attachments even in that letter. She didn't say, I'm including so-and-so. Even though I requested it over and over again. So here's the email exchange with Kate Patterson. And mind you, every time she opens and closes a request or changes anything, I get at least 50 of the same emails. So on this one, I received well over 2,000 emails. So here's the what happened. Here's the email exchange. Here's the original IDR. And February 2nd, Dear Victor, please consider this email and the attachment our response. And I respond saying there's no attachment.
Can we hear from the respondent?
Hi, Rebecca Krell, representing the Arts Commission. So my understanding is Ms. Gerbeau requested supporting documents for the January 9th, 2018 meeting of the Street Artists and Crafts Examiners. There were no supporting documents for this meeting. The staff responded within the required 24-hour time frame, and we don't believe there's a violation. And I do have the, believe it's all in your packet. It's all documented in next request, the request and our response to the request.
Is there anything else?
No, that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Do the members have any questions at this time?
Helpful.
Okay. For whom?
So, Mr. Wu, can you approach?
Hi.
So, was this request made through the next request system?
No, most of my requests are made directly to Rebecca Krill's email because I have a long-standing history of frustration with Kate Patterson Murphy. She cannot read and respond. This is very typical not to include the PDF. That happens 75% of the time.
And then once they transfer the request or whatever they do to it to get it into next request, you claim that you were not given access to whatever changes or she was making a response?
No, I get these emails saying that your request has been open. Instead of one email, there'll be 50 repetitive emails. And then your request has been closed. It's been reopened. Documents have been added. So I'm getting 50 hits constantly.
Are you able to then access,
No,
go on next request and then access?
No, unless the request is published, which is the last step of next request. Not even the public or myself, the requester, has access to the information.
Do any of the other members have questions? Okay, I have a few questions for Mr. Wu first. So for your complaint, the first section that I see is 67.20. 67.20 are a number of definitions, so there really isn't a place for a complaint. Do you agree with that?
Maybe I have the code wrong. My issue is that I made an IDR request. I did not receive documents.
Okay. Well, 67.20 are all definitions. I don't see a complaint there.
Okay.
Moving to 67.25, though. Moment. There you have letters A through D. So this is for your IDR.
Yes.
Okay. Next, I just want to go to 67.7 A and B, and this has to do with the posting of the meeting minutes or the meeting agenda.
Okay.
Is that part of your complaint? I can refresh your memory. Let's see.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
So 67.7, you listed A and B, and 67.7 has to do with agenda requirements for regular meetings. So that has to do with the posting of an agenda 72 hours
Right.
prior to a meeting. Do you have a complaint under these sections?
1 second. Is this item number 4?
This is for item number 5.
5, okay.
So I was just looking at page P108 of the packet,
Right,
where you
okay.
you describe the violation with the section numbers, and 67.7 A and B are the first ones listed.
My issue is that I sent an IDR. I did not receive a response, not even to this day.
Okay,
That-
so 67. I guess to explain, what I'm doing right now is
I know
looking at the
what you're
portions
doing.
and just making
Yeah.
sure the pieces are
Yeah.
there for the full task force. So 67.A and B discusses agenda requirements, posting of an agenda 72 hours in advance, and a description of the
Yes.
agenda item being meaningful. Is that part of your complaint today?
It is part of my complaint because the supporting documents to the November 7th meeting, the subsequent meeting, and is often the habit of the Arts Commission, is to post the supporting documents when the minutes post. The supporting documents should be made available to the public when they're entering the room. They should be posted online when the agenda posts. And in fact, in the audio, which is queued up, Ann Tricky mistakenly says that I don't need to post supporting documents if they're given to commissioners.
Okay. So for 67.7A, that has to do with the agenda being posted 72 hours in advance. Where in the packet do you have any documents or evidence to show that the agenda was not posted 72 hours in advance? For
The agenda-
example, a copy of the website 72 hours before the meeting with no
The
agenda?
supporting documents were not posted.
Okay, and so do you have a place in the packet where you show that they were not posted?
They were part of the previous complaint, but I can include them again in this complaint.
And so do you have like a screenshot of the website 72 hours in advance with no agenda with supporting documents?
I do.
Okay.
And I have the audio of Ann Tricky.
I know, but what we need for here is evidence that the agenda was not posted 72 hours in advance. And so there you would need something like,
My issue is the supporting documents. It's not the agenda.
Okay, so
Member Wolf?
So were there any documents posted next to the agenda that was posted?
No, the November 7th, the one in December. In fact, on the November 7th audio of a certain section, I stand up and say that you need to make these documents available to the public and post them online. It's a violation of the Sunshine Ordinance. She recorded something completely different. It's
Okay.
there on the audio.
So just to notate, the ordinance only speaks to documents that are like 1 page in length. If it's more than 1 page in length, then they are to be made available, in either the regular means or, as it states here, made available for public inspection and copying at a location indicated on the agenda during normal office hours. That's essentially 67.7B.
Okay.
And it's the last, in the middle, starts with it shall refer
Okay.
to any explanatory documents. So, that would be the only point I would make, is that if we're trying to find out if, let's say, the agenda was posted properly, was at least one page of the supporting documents supported with it.
No, I was at the meeting.
I'm talking to the chair.
I'm sorry.
So right now I'm trying to figure out, do we have the documents in the packet
Right.
for this to move forward? So it looks like,
May I suggest one question? In that I believe the respondent has stated there was no supporting documents to post.
There were 47 pages that posted on the supporting documents.
thank you. So 67.7A has just to do with the agenda, and it does not appear that 67.7A is what we're discussing. So I would, if this moves forward, I would not like to include I would like to remove 67.7A from this moving forward. It looks like we're focused on 67.7B for the supplemental documents. What kind of evidence, Mr. Member Wolf, do you think would need to be in the packet to support something on 67.7B? What would the petitioner need to include?
I guess it would be, there would have to be some sort of physical evidence that first of all, where it was posted, the agenda, and if at least one page of the supporting documents for any of the items or all of the items were posted next to it at that location. That would be the question. I'm not going to...
Right, like a screenshot or a photo or something like that.
Like
okay.
that. Or, somebody corroborating it, like other witnesses, that kind of thing.
Oh, that would be, okay. And just to let the room know, I would not like this item to move forward until we are able to see that document.
Could you clarify exactly what you're looking for?
That would be something like a screenshot, a screenshot of the agenda with no, as it's referred to here, explanatory documents.
Okay.
If the documents are of one page or more.
It would be a picture, like a camera picture, or it could be, other members of the public that have witnessed that it either was there or not there. That kind of there has to be some. We have to be able to see some corroborating evidence that.
Would a portion of the audio where Ann Tricky says, "I don't need to," no.
Yeah,
okay.
Anything that would describe that it was either there or not there,
okay.
and whether these documents were posted properly or not. That's
okay.
all.
Okay.
So we've talked about 67.7, 67.20, moving to 67.25. So this has to do with the IDR. Ms. Trudeau, are you saying that you did not receive anything within 10 days?
I did not receive anything up until today.
Okay. And this is 67.25 A through D. I have a question for the respondent. Thank you. Can you again summarize what was going on with this IDR? I'm very familiar with the next request system. I know that it sends a variety of responses to the requester, which is fine. The complaints that I've heard today about I'm getting too many emails, the purpose of the system is to be transparent, that activity is going on, that the process is taking place. And so that's not an issue. I don't want to hear anything about that. But the petitioner states that she has not received anything within the 10-day period. And so, she hasn't received anything to this day. So just what is your specific response to that?
Sure. So in your packet, we have the whole back and forth with her included. We did respond January 8th, 2018, 4:28 p.m. as the timestamp. That's 2 minutes after the request was received. We say, in response to your request for supporting documents for this meeting, which should have posted when the agenda posted, with a link to the agenda, it's the January 9th meeting. We have no supporting documents for the January 9th, 2018 Street Artists Advisory Committee. So we did respond. We responded that we had no supporting documents, and the meeting was later canceled due to lack of quorum.
Okay, what was the 47-page document that Mr. Boo has made reference to?
I don't know what she's talking about.
I'd like to ask Mr. Boo
Okay.
to speak on that. Thank you.
The 47-page document refers to not the January meeting, but the November 7th meeting that I attended. That was the issue there. And once again, because this next...
I'm going to stop you there just so I can get, you're not, I think my question wasn't clear. We're talking about supplemental documents for the January 8th meeting, correct?
Correct.
And then the January 8th meeting was subsequently canceled from what January 9th, my apologies, was canceled. Is that correct to your knowledge?
By looking online much later, because the next request was not published, I did not have access to the documents. It hasn't been published to this day. Well, they may have sent something. I didn't receive it because it wasn't published.
And so do you mean published, the next request response wasn't published?
The next request response was not published. I have included it in the packet. It's not made available to me until it is published.
Are you aware that if there are no documents?
I didn't get that communication.
Are you familiar with the email that Ms. Krell has detailed that said that you were sent an email on January 9th stating that there were no...
It did not come from Krill to my email. It went through Next Request. I did not receive it because it was not published.
What do you mean by not published?
If there are documents, they will be published. If there are no documents, they won't be published. So
I see.
I think that what I'm trying to figure out here is you were sent a notice that said that there were no documents. You're saying that you didn't receive it?
No. You get a series of activity.
Correct.
Okay. Your request has been opened. It's been assigned a number. It might go to, it's pending.
Mm-hmm.
It might go to...
Can be paused.
It can be paused. I didn't know about that. I even went to the place on Bryant Street to find out more about it, but there was nobody there. It was a house that was closed, and they don't respond to an 800 number. So you don't have access to any documents or any emails, which is why I would send a new one to Rebecca Krill from my email to her email, because I don't have access. It's not been published. All I get is there's traffic, there's activity, but I don't know what it is. Until the request is published, I have no idea what's going on.
Thank you. So at this time, I think I have enough information. I don't think that this item can move forward at this time. I believe that we need to have the information showing that the supplemental documents were not included, that that Mr. Boo says that she, or I don't know if she says that she will be able to get this information, but that would definitely need to be put into the record in order to support any type of complaint regarding Section 67.7B. And so I would like to have that information put into the record in order for us to have that and review it before moving this item forward.
Can you clarify exactly what meeting and what information you're looking for?
So under Section 67.7B, that's where we're talking about the supplemental documents that you said that were missing. And so what we would need there is that you'd need to have some type of evidence, either another witness, witnesses that can show that the agenda was posted without a supplemental document.
Which meeting?
Pardon?
Which meeting?
The January 8th meeting, or 9th meeting, or 8th meeting that was canceled.
Okay.
Or that the agenda was posted and a screenshot that there were no supplemental documents. At this time, it sounds like the Arts Commission is saying that there were no supplemental documents, and so...
But all they had to do was send me a direct email. Once again, unless this next request thing is published, I don't get the communications.
So
I've included a screenshot of my email, which is just bombarded to capacity with next request things that I can't respond to.
okay. Do we have any further questions?
So just for the respondent, so was there a January 9th meeting? Was it canceled the January 8th and then you had it January 9th?
No, I think the confusion about the dates is just that this back and forth took place on the 8th. The meeting was scheduled for the 9th. We ended up having someone call in sick and didn't have quorum, and so had to cancel the meeting. The agenda was posted in time. There were no supporting documents, so at no time were there supporting documents posted. There were none. We did respond that way. I mean, all of the timestamps and next requests make clear what's public and what's not. This was a public message sent.
Let me add, if you posted an agenda 72 hours in advance of the meeting before it was canceled, were there any supporting documents for any item on that agenda?
No.
Okay. Ms. Trabeau, just to be clear, the 47 pages of documents, were they in reference to an agenda item on January 9th, for the January 9th meeting?
The 47 pages were a reference to a November 7th advisory meeting. Then I also just cited a December something advisory meeting. But I'm certainly free to add or to make another formal complaint. Maybe it was written wrong. A lot of times I write these things in haste because I'm saying, what just happened here? I didn't have an opportunity to talk. There are no documents in the room. Nobody has explained to me that they're going to severely limit public comment. And so when I write these complaints, it's not, I should wait a couple days and kind of simmer down and look carefully at the codes, because the 47 pages referenced a November 7th advisory meeting, a December meeting. There were supporting documents that posted, even at the full commission. I
hear you. I'm just looking at your original request to them. It was very short and simple.
Right.
On January 8th at 1:30 p.m., you wrote, request the supporting documents for this meetings, which should have posted when the agenda posted, and you put a link to the agenda, which was for January 9th.
Right.
The respondent is testifying that there were no supporting documents for any item on that agenda, whether they had the meeting or not. So that's...
I didn't get that communication. Well, they have a problem with knowing and understanding the next request system.
But your complaint is that you didn't get the documents.
My complaint is that I sent an IDR to this day until the agenda posted online, and I saw their responses. I didn't get a response because the request was not published.
All the way back at the beginning. So it took them that much time to the 12th to get that. So it starts here, right? No. Request for IDR. That's what I'm looking for, is that document. That the one, if she made the request on January 8th. I'm sorry, can you repeat your name, please, for the respondent? I came in late, I don't think I heard you.
Sure, it's Rebecca Krell.
Oh, okay. Ms. Grell.
Yeah.
So in the next request system, so Ms. Trevaux sent her IDR request on January 8th. Okay. The ordinance under an IDR requires a response, just a response that you received the request and that and there are or are not documents by the end of the next business day.
Right.
So it would be the end of the business of January 9th. Is there a response, either a direct email, a phone call, or through the next request system on January 9th?
It's on January 8th. It's time stamped and dated 4/28.
Can you give us the page number?
Sure, I think it's page 142 in your packet. So there's a back and forth.
Yeah, I see it in a few places, because I also see it on page 130.
It's repeated. I'm looking at 142.
Okay.
But then there's a response from the requester, right, acknowledging that she's receiving these emails, and it's marked public, which is what it's marked when it's, right, there's a staff only, there's a public.
Oh,
I mean, you can see it all
Page
right here.
142?
Yes, that's what I'm looking at.
Okay. Let me get there. 142, 138, 141. Okay. So I see. Okay, external message. So that's from the requester, right? Where it says external message.
Yes, what I'm looking at. Oh, I see. External messages from her. So we sent ours at 4/28. She then says, "You need to stop bombarding me with emails." So I don't know how she can not have received anything and subsequently have acknowledged receiving emails. But
Oh, actually, it's on page 140 where I'm looking. Go up one page. Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Tribolo, let's just, let's just, so I understand that this system spits out a lot of email.
Repetitive emails.
Let me just finish my thought. So it spits out a lot of email with regards to every activity, anybody that touches the system or this particular issue. That's the way it works. Maybe it needs to be tweaked in some way. Maybe it's being overly transparent, okay, to the point that of what we like. And so here I'm looking at the chronology, and I'm seeing that I got to start at the bottom. So request was open. So I'm looking at the bottom of page 143. And that's the first time that the issue was submitted into the system, and it was submitted into the system. It says, by Kate Patterson on behalf of Dan Trubeau, and then it says above that, request received via email. So that's your original email to them. That's when it was opened. Okay? And then within the same day, by the end of that day, actually within 2 minutes, a response was provided to you. It says, in response to your request, and it repeats what your request was. We have no supporting documents for the January 9th meeting. Did you get that message?
No, I did not. When the request published on January 12th, and I filed this complaint on the 9th, is when I got that. Once
Okay.
it published, I got that information.
Okay, so
the
Ms.
emails that I am citing, and I cited it in the original IDR, do not bombard me with 50 of the same email, is that the request has been opened, and it just keeps coming and coming and coming. I think I sent a screenshot of my email. It's ridiculous. It was published on January 12th at 12:09 p.m. and delivered to me at 12:10 p.m., and that's when I saw it, which is why I continue to send email directly to Rebecca Krill, because it's not like the police public record system where you can just type in, here's the space above, where you can correspond with the person who's writing this request. It doesn't work that way. I've tried it before. It doesn't work.
Thank you. Would the respondent like time for rebuttal?
No, thank you. I think the chronology provided in the documents is extremely clear.
Thank you. Does the petitioner have rebuttal?
Basically, what I said when the mayor's office sent somebody in here to explain that this new platform, next request, yada, yada, and when IT came in and I asked them directly, has the Arts Commission ever communicated with you? And they said no. So here you see over and over again how the person and often doesn't even identify herself. Some of the responses are coming from Ann Tricky, some are coming. This one was sent originally to Rebecca Krill. She would have been the one that would have followed up on it. Instead, I'm left hanging until the request published.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any motions on this item?
No.
Well, so I would. So, it's hard to say because the hard part is about for this for me is that the system spits out the information. If it's going to spit out so many emails and it's going to be hard for a person to track, they may not see the actual email for the actual response. Then the next question is if they got an email, let me just ask Ms. Krell, when the system opens, when you first open a request, does that automatically send an email to a person saying your request has been opened?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'm not seeing a motion here, so we'll be moving forward, but I think that this is something that the task force is going to need to discuss as a group. This is a larger issue than this certain complaint, where maybe we can talk about whoever is managing the next request system, some type of training for users so that they can, understand how they're going to be getting emails. It sounds like people need to know what to look for. And though from this documentation, it looks like Ms. Trabue, from this documentation, we see Ms. Trabue received the email, but if she receives so many emails, it's going to be difficult for her to understand which one has the information that she needs. That's not the fault of the Arts Commission. That's a training matter, I think, for the system at large. There might be, this sounds like a good topic of conversation for our organization as a whole, and we can communicate how the public needs to have some type of training video or something like that they can look at to see what the communications back and forth are going to look like. Because Mr. Bowe is someone who's made many Public Records Act requests, Sunshine Ordinance Task Force requests, and the system is completely changed. So it sounds like, you don't know what to anticipate from.
I think also,
the system.
This has very specific terminology in it. So the subject, title, I haven't seen an actual email, what an actual email looks like from this, but when it says request open, and then you get to the point where it says request closed. The question is that you don't know whether that's the actual response or not. And so, because the question then is, does the subject line on the email change for each time it spits out an email or sends an email? So I'm looking. Okay, so here's some. Right. So it's changing the. It looks like it's changing the subject line each time. Mm-hmm. So when it says that it's closed, it's not necessarily a response, the actual response. So I think that's the question that we have to determine is if you request an IDR and the system responds back that the request has been opened, that's not a response because it's not responding with the context of the request.
Right, but in this case, within the required IDR period, an email was sent by Kate Patterson Murphy saying we have no supporting documents for this item. So
it really demands that a requester now has to pay attention more to how the system is working. And I agree. I think it needs to be reviewed as to whether it can be properly used by general public.
Thank you. We need to move to the next item because we're ending at 7:30.
I wasn't going to print out 2,000 of the repetitive emails, but you could see from my email pages and pages.
Thank you.
On a simple request.
Thank you. Before we move to the next item, I'd like to take a 5-minute break.
Is there any action on this?
No.
Continued, no action?
No action. We didn't have any motion on this item.
So it'll stay in committee until further notice.
Yes, please. Thank you.
We are back in session. Next on the agenda is item number 6, file number 17131, complaint filed by Magic Altman against the Police Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.5, 67.7-1, 67.15, and 67.34 by willfully failing to make meetings open to the public, creating barriers to attendance, and failing to allow public comment, failing to provide adequate public notice, and failing to provide an opportunity for public comment.
Is the petitioner present? Thank you. If you could give her 3 minutes, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Magic Altman. Thank you for hearing this. The Brown Act states that there is no semi-closed meetings in which some members of the public are permitted to attend while others are not. Meetings are either opened or closed. The legislative body may remove persons from a meeting who willfully interrupt proceedings. If order still cannot be restored, the meeting room may be cleared. The legislative body may establish a procedure to readmit an individual or individuals not responsible for the disturbance. This is not what happened. They had followed this. Had they followed this procedure, we, the people, would have been aware of what our representatives were doing. Instead, President Sherman was prompted by the city attorney in attendance to clear the room because of the aforementioned provision. But in fact, the police were not told to do so, and we continued the meeting of the people since our representatives had left the meeting. That lasted about 45 minutes, and never during that time or at any time were there any official announcements that the meeting was being moved upstairs. Meanwhile, the commissioners were sneaking sneaking around the back rooms and through the mayor's office to reconvene without the public being informed. This information was told to me by Commissioner Petra de Jesus. During this time, City Hall was put on lockdown. When Commissioner de Jesus learned that the building was on lockdown, she went down to the entrance and succeeding in getting some people inside. However, she could not help everyone, so people were being turned away from their own meeting. Shutting down City Hall was an extreme overreaction at what had occurred when Ms. Gutierrez, an elder in one of the Frisco Five, had gone over her minutes. Earlier, the testimony of Police Commissioner Waltz had exceeded the allotted 10 minutes time, and he apologized twice, but nothing was said to him. Thus, this was an arbitrary enforcement of a time limit by the president of the commission. When I finally heard through other members of the public, not any members of the government, was moved to, I was able to get in. There, people were let in 5 at a time. After their testimony, they were told by the police to leave, but one man objected and the president said he could stay. Some just sat back down, and others, not used to standing up to this kind of arbitrary enforcement, left. The circumstances of this incident are different than the usual objections dealing with the need for 72 hours notification prior to a meeting of an agenda and the items and materials necessary. This being an unusual situation, we the people are asking the task force to recognize that the intent or spirit of the law was violated. And we also do not know what happened in between them being downstairs and upstairs. There's no evidence that any of the commissioners or anyone else that might have been with them gave any testimony that they were not discussing the issue at hand concerning the vote on tasers.
Is anyone present on behalf of the respondent?
Good afternoon. I'm Sergeant Kilshaw, and I'm representing the Police Commission. So the Commission complied with Administrative Code 67.7 when it posted on the Commission's website on October 31st the agenda containing the description of the items to be discussed at November 3rd, 2017 special meeting. Ms. Altman refers to Administrative Code 67.71, which relates to notices required to persons within a specific geographical area or neighborhood regarding actions affecting that specific area or neighborhood, but this section does not have any bearing on this commission meeting. The special meeting was held at City Hall in the Board of Supervisors Chambers, room 250, and was open to all members of the public. After the meeting was recessed because of persistent disorderly conduct, some of the members of the public of their conduct in attendance at the meeting. It was reconvened in room 400 with notice to those who were in room 250 at the time. The meeting was again open to all members of the public, such that every member of the public who wished to provide public comment during the meeting was able to do so. There were no barriers to any member of the public attending the meetings. Ms. Altman alleges that cops and police officers were not allowing members of the public into City Hall, but it's the Commission's understanding that public access to City Hall was restricted only for a brief time, which was after the meeting had recessed in room 250 and before it had again reconvened in room 400, and that the Sheriff's Office had determined that that brief restriction was necessary to restore order both in room 250 and in the hallway outside of room 250, where the public disorder posed a threat to safety and the security of attendees at the meeting. At all times, the meeting was in process, both in room 250 and later in room 400. We understand that the public was able to enter City Hall and enter the meeting room. Further, the Commission also understands that during this brief period, members of the public wishing to enter City Hall were told that they would be able to do so shortly after order had been restored. The Commission did not fail to allow public comment due to the length and the agenda and the number of people at the meeting. Commission President Turman designated the amount of time for public comment at 2 minutes. By Ms. Altman's own admission, in her example, the person was provided 2 minutes to speak. At the end, the commenter At the end of her 2 minutes, President Turman advised her that her time had expired and asked her to end public comment, an action he took when any member of the public continued to speak. Ms. Altman complains that Commander Walsh spoke for a longer time, but he was not speaking as a member of the public. He was providing a presentation on the issue at hand and was speaking as an expert. As such, the 2-minute limitation did not apply to him. Do you want me to keep going or no?
We can ask any follow-up questions, and you'll have rebuttal time. Do any of the members have questions for the petitioner or the respondent? I do. Could the petitioner please approach? Thank you.
Yes.
So I wanted to start with section 67.7-1. And that section of the ordinance has to do with the effect on personal property. And I was wondering if you could go into any detail on your application of that section to your.
Well, I'm concerned about general public notice. As I said in my opening remarks, this is not, it's about not the letter of the law, but the intent or spirit, because they did all the procedures about 72 hours and all of that. I mean, I won a decision here before about that. I understand that. But there was no public notice. I was in that room in the entire time until everybody left that room, and no one came in that was official and said the meeting is upstairs. And also the city was on lockdown, which was reported by the news. So it wasn't just like it happened and it was over. It was pretty serious. And there was no violent action by anybody in the public whatsoever.
So I understand what you're saying about the notice to move the room to a different area, but I want to just talk about the specific application of 67.7-1, which has to do with public notice being mailed, posted, or published on matters that may impact the property of a neighborhood or area. At this time, I don't see that as being applicable to the matter at hand. I do understand that there's a notice issue, but I don't.
I can understand that.
Okay.
Because it's that's a very specific letter of the law, and as I said, they did that. What I'm asking for is a very specific understanding that the public was not allowed in that meeting, and they were denied entry even into City Hall.
Okay. Do you know when individuals were being held up by the sheriff's office? Were they told that they would be able to enter at a different time, or were they saying the building was closed indefinitely? From
the testimony I've gathered so far, one of them was not told that, and the other one was.
Okay. Do you have any of that testimony included in the packet?
Yes, I included both of those testimonies in the packet, from Maria Grimm and from Marco Gonzalez.
Okay.
So one of them was told, and to me, if even one member of the public is told they cannot enter a building because it's on lockdown to a meeting, then we have denied the public the right to be part of their governance.
Okay. And if this matter moves forward, I would appreciate the appearance of Ms. Grimm. We can discuss if that is necessary.
And she said she would be able to attend.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I wanted to move to section 67.15. Did the agenda for this meeting include so 67.15 has many sections, but when I was looking at the complaint, I only really saw 67.15 listed in general. So I was wondering if there were any specific sections that you wanted to draw our attention to.
I'm sorry, I don't have the whole thing in front of me right now, and I will definitely do due diligence to be prepared for that question at the follow-up
I
meeting.
can ask you a few questions to
Certainly.
try and walk through it and figure that out.
Thank you.
So for 67.15A, it has to do with the agenda for the meeting being posted and having public comment included on the agenda. Was that included for this meeting, to your knowledge?
On the general notification before all of this happened. You see, that's why it's an unusual situation.
No, the agenda for the meeting that day.
Yes, there was public comment. Public comment had already started happening. I in fact, made public comment before this happened. So
Okay.
that
So maybe
was.
it's not 67.15A that we're referring to. Looking at 67.15B, it says for every agenda for a special meeting, there should be opportunities for each member of the public to directly address the body concerning that item prior to any action being taken.
Exactly. That's definitely pertinent.
Okay, and so can you go into any detail on what happened for 67 point, for this section, 67.15B?
Well, first of all, when President Turman in the first room he said, I will adjourn the meeting. Then he said, I will recess the meeting. And then the attorney told him that he had to say, you have to clear the room, because
Okay.
that's according to the law. So people left because of that.
And is the action that was being taken there, you're referring to you said the taser policy?
Correct. That was
Okay.
what the vote was on.
And so the vote was taken?
It was taken, yes.
Okay. And you're saying that members of the public did not have the opportunity to directly address the body concerning that policy
Correct.
before the action was taken?
Correct.
And would Maria Grimm be an example of one of those people?
Exactly.
Okay. So right now, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like we don't have 67.15A, but perhaps B. And we have some evidence already in the record to support B. So 67.15C, it has to do with establishing regulations, the policy body. Let's see.
That's time limits.
For time limits, and so, but they say they would need to have at least 3 minutes.
Up to
3 minutes. Do you have any concerns there?
Well, yes, because it was very arbitrary. I never said that Commissioner Walsh was supposed to have 2 minutes. All of the presenters were allowed 10 minutes. So I just want to be clear about that. And Sergeant Kilshaw, who was keeping time that day, did not ever stop him when he went over time, nor did President Turman. So I'm just trying to show you that it was arbitrarily enforced.
So Sergeant Kilshaw has said that Officer Walsh was not a member of the public. And so let's say besides that individual, was there anyone else that was given extra time to speak?
No, but there was no need to be so abrupt and turn off the mic. In other words, what I'm trying to show is that the people supporting their testimony were given more time and not interrupted, and the public was interrupted. And the public, it is our government that's meant to be served, and so it was very abrupt. Exactly 2 minutes, her mic was cut off.
Okay. But all members of the public were given at least 2 minutes?
Yes, they were given 2 minutes if they got in,
Okay.
which they didn't.
Okay.
I have a bunch of questions.
Okay. So for 67.1, I just want to make, does it have to do with 67.15A through E? Okay, I just want to make sure that, so right now I'm hearing support for B. For C, the regulation was 2 minutes per person, so I'm not having, I'm not looking for any more information regarding that. So for D, for a policy body shall not abridge or prohibit public criticism of the policy, procedures, programs, or services. Were people allowed to say whatever they wanted in their comments, or were they not allowed to criticize the organization?
I don't recall anyone not being able to criticize the organization.
Was anybody interrupted? Was anybody's testimony interrupted?
Not that I recall, but I will ask other people that were there those questions.
And then E, to facilitate public input, any agenda changes or continuances shall be announced by the presiding officer. So it sounds like that that is part of your concern.
Exactly, because it was not announced.
So there was no announcement that the meeting was moving to a different room?
Not to my knowledge, and I was in the room where Sergeant Kilshaw claims that there was an announcement made in that room, and there was no announcement made in that room.
Okay.
We heard from another member of the public.
Are there any recordings of the meeting?
Yes, there's a recording. In fact, you can go to the website, and I was reviewing that myself because I wanted to see, and I am going to find out actually also when the meeting was reconvened, because I don't have that exact time, which I think will be helpful, because there are times that the other people's testimony give about exactly when they were denied entrance into City Hall and so forth. So I will research that further, but I do know that at 1 hour and 50 minutes is when President Sherman said he will adjourn the meeting. I think that him saying first adjourn and then recess was very confusing to the public.
Okay. Sergeant Kilshaw, can I ask you a question? On the recording of the meeting, you said that there was
the recording. I'm sorry, the reporting.
You stated that there was an announcement made that the meeting was moving to a different room. What evidence do you have to support that announcement?
My understanding is that the Sheriff's Department made that announcement to the people in the room, and then we also have a picture of a sign that was placed on the door of room 250 saying that the meeting is moving to room 400.
Okay. So you have the photo, but do you have any recording or evidence to support that an announcement was made?
Other than the Sheriff's Department saying that they made it, no. Once Commissioner Turman said that the meeting was recessed, SFG TV went dark, so they stopped recording.
In the packet, have you included any kind of testimony from the Sheriff's Office or a record that says that they made an announcement?
Just other than our representation that they told us, actually through our city attorney.
Okay, so we don't have anything. Okay.
I don't have any names.
And then I just have one more section to ask questions on, which would be 67.34, and we can just save that for later. That has to do with willful, which we would have to look at a different time. So those are all of my questions. Member Wolf?
Okay. Okay, Sergeant Kilshaw. How long was the recess?
I believe it was over an hour, but I'd have to go back and look at the exact time again.
Okay. And you stated that the meeting was moved from room 250 to room 400?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yep.
And so how can you just run it by me again how this was done? You know, there was disruption in room 250. Chair Turman decided that it was too disruptive and sought to stop the meeting.
He sought to recess the meeting until order could be restored in the room.
Till order can be restored in the room. Okay. And do you have any specific rules on change of venue in the middle of a meeting?
I don't know.
Does the commission have any meeting rules?
I don't know what rules they used. Again, to Ms. Altman's testimony, there was city attorney there advising on how to handle. So I don't know what that discussion was or what it included.
Okay. So you don't have any? You don't
I don't.
know. Okay. And have you, in your experience, have you ever experienced this before?
I have experienced taking recesses for disorderly conduct, people being removed for disorderly conduct, meetings ending for disorderly conduct.
But what about a change of venue?
No.
Okay, thank you. At what time did the meeting go into recess? When was it called into recess?
I don't know. I don't have the times with me tonight.
But you said it was in recess for an hour.
At least an hour.
At least an hour. And do you know when the meeting recommenced?
I think around 8-ish, 8 p.m. But
8 p.m.
But that I'd have to go to get a specific time.
And do you know when the sheriffs reopened City Hall?
I believe it was closed for a 15-minute period sometime after the meeting was recessed in room 250, and then it was reopened before we reconvened in room 400. And my understanding, again, through the city attorney's office talking to the sheriffs, it was for a 15-minute period of time that City Hall was closed in order to restore order. The public had taken over room 250 and said they were not going to allow the meeting to continue, and had demands and wanted commissioners to come in and tell the commission how they wanted the meeting to proceed. And President Turman wasn't going to allow that.
And again, just for my edification, so when Chair Turman called for a recess, did he announce that there would be a change in venue?
He did not. We didn't know what we were going to do at that time.
And
The intent was that as the recess was called, ask for order so that we could reconvene in that room when it was clear that the members of the public were not going to.
But at no time did he speak to the public or announce that there would be a change in venue?
I know individual commissioners went out to speak to members of the public in the room. I don't know. I'm telling you that I don't know if it was him personally.
Okay.
I can tell you that individual commissioners went out and spoke to members of the public in the room. I cannot state with certainty if he was one of those members.
But there was no announcement like over a microphone or at the dais
Not that he made.
to members of the public
Not
so
that
that
he
it could be
made.
seen on television or reported by the media or anything like that? Okay.
No.
All right. And for the staff that were making presentations,
Yes.
were they on a special speakers list?
Yes, in the sense that they had all been identified to the commission ahead of time. They knew they were going to speak. Some flew in, some came.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was it announced that how much time was to be given either for each person or for a whole presentation?
I believe it was announced that each speaker had 10 minutes.
Okay, very good. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Any further questions, Member Hinsey? No.
Oh, just one more from Ms. Altman. So I saw you shaking your head about the time that when I was asking about when the City Hall was reopened. So the testimony from Sergeant Kilshaw was that City Hall was closed for about 15 minutes, so that would have left about 45 minutes before the meeting recommenced. Is that your recollection?
I have to get further testimony,
hold on a
but
second.
Not what I said, no.
Oh.
I said it was closed. I mean, we recessed for at least an hour. I don't know if it was well more than an hour, but at some point during the period of time, the representation from the Sheriff's Department to the Police Commission was that during that period of time that we were in recess, it was closed for 15 minutes.
Oh, I see. Okay. So there was some 15-minute period that it was closed in that 1 hour or more period. Got it. Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Altman. Sorry I interrupted you.
I would have to, from my impression from the people I've talked to that couldn't get in and were turned away, that it had to be more than 15 minutes. But I can't verify that for a fact. So I will do my due diligence to research that before the meeting as a whole. They stopped the video as soon as President Turman said, that the meeting was going to be adjourned or recessed. And so they didn't start it again, and I don't know what time, so I'm going to have to find out that information. I think it'll be very pertinent.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think it would be good for this case if we move it forward to have some corroboration from the sheriff as to what the period of time it was closed and reopened. And, yeah.
I agree with that. I do believe that we have enough evidence in the packet to move forward on a number of sections of the ordinance, not all of the ones that were presented. And after rebuttal, I'd be happy to make a motion on that. the petitioner has supplied written testimony, and she has stated that, which I think is what we would need, was what we need for this to move forward. But I would appreciate having those individuals that were listed in the testimony or others speak on her behalf at the time of the actual hearing on this for the full task force. I'd like to move to rebuttals. Can we hear from the respondent?
So just to address some additional things that Ms. Altman talked about, Commissioner Turman did recess the meeting after members of the public were loud and disruptive and failed to come to order, despite several requests from him to do so. While the commission was in recess, members of the commission, while I was not present during the whole time, I was back and forth in between the room providing security. My understanding is that they did not hold any discussions amongst themselves nor conduct any businesses regarding the topic of conducted energy devices, known more commonly as tasers. And then after the recess, the commission reconvened in room 400. It's our understanding, in addition to the Sheriff's Department making the announcement, SFPD member placing the notice on the door, that actually the Sheriff's Departments were the ones who escorted the people from room 250 up to room 400. So there was a sheriff's escort. And Ms. Altman does not appear to contend that any member of the public who wished to provide public comment in either room 250 or 400 were prevented from doing so, were they in the room. The commission did allow the public into the reconvened meeting, 5 at a time, as Ms. Altman said. She does also concede that the president has a right to determine how to proceed. President Turman determined that having 5 people come in at a time was the way he could maintain order in the reconvened meeting, given the previous disruptions. Members who were not allowed to stay in the room and asked to leave were able to attend the overflow room in the South Light Court, where there was a screen and a projection of the comments being made. And then Ms. Altman makes a complaint about President Turman interrupting Commissioner De Jesus, and neither the Brown Act nor the Sunshine Act regulate the manner in which Commission Chair conducts discussions among Commission members.
Thank you. Can we hear a rebuttal from the petitioner?
Thank you. So there's no evidence that they weren't discussing it. Sergeant Kilshaw was not there at the whole time, and they don't have anything in the packet saying that they weren't discussing the people's business. And also, I never said that everybody was allowed to testify. Anybody that got in was allowed to testify. My complaint is that they were not allowed to get in. So, by the way, I have great respect for President Turman. Actually, he opposes tasers. It's got nothing to do with the issue. It's got to do with the procedure, and it's very important that the people are always allowed to have access to their own meeting. And I think that that's my main discussion. And with that, I'll say that's the end.
Thank you. You're welcome. I'd like to make a motion. At this time, I would like to make a motion to move this item forward to the full task force under the following sections of the ordinance. The public comment would be on the motion. And so when that time comes. So I was saying I would like to bring a motion under section 67.15B, where every agenda for a special meetings at which action is proposed to be taken on an item shall provide an opportunity for each member of the public to directly address the body concerning the item prior to action thereupon. That's just based on some of the testimony that is in the record of individuals not being allowed into the building at any time. I would also like to move this forward under 67.15 section C, that has to do with adopting reasonable regulations to ensure the intent of the above subdivisions is carried out. I'm not saying that the 2 minutes per person was wrong, or that Officer Walsh should not have been given more time than everyone else. That'll be for the full task force to look at, but I think we have the evidence in the record to evaluate that issue one way or the other. And then also under 67.15E, which is to facilitate the public input, changes or continuances shall be announced. It sounds like we have competing evidence on both sides about what occurred on that, and so I think that we have enough information for the full task force to evaluate that item. I would also, or that portion of the ordinance. And then finally, I would like to include in the motion section 67.34 for willful failure. It would only be regarding the portions of the ordinance that I have brought up in this motion. But we have to evaluate the portions of 67.15 before the task force can evaluate 67.34.
I have just a question. I'll second it, but I have a question, depending upon the question. For your assertion on 6734, this is who is the respondent in this case?
The respondent that was listed was against the police commission.
Okay, so finding willful failure would be then has to be on a person.
Okay. So then I would like to amend the motion not to include 67.34.
Okay, then I'll second.
And can we also add that the task force has jurisdiction over the matter?
Yes. Thank you. Do we have any public comment on the motion? Yes, on the motion.
Oh, should I not comment on the?
I mean, you can say the motion is missing things or should not include certain things.
The motion seems mostly okay to me. Should I then reserve comment for a later meeting, or?
Go ahead and make your comment.
Okay.
Comment, yeah.
Sorry. So hopefully I can add some of this to the testimony. I was there at that meeting. In the respondents' forms, it says, I wanted to clarify that no notice was given to the public in room 205. I was present there. Access was restricted to the building while the meeting was convened in room 400. You can see in the testimony times ranging from 7 p.m. to 7:50 to 8:40 p.m., and there's no way that's just a 15-minute period. There's the claim that there were no barriers to any member of the public attending the meeting. That evidence contradicts that. Members of the public wishing to enter City Hall were told that they would be able to do so shortly after order had been restored in and around room 250. That's not true. I left City Hall after the meeting had reconvened in room 400 in order to buy essentially granola bars for people so they'd be less hangry. And when I got back, as I did that, I asked the sheriff's deputies at the front, telling them what my plan was and checking whether or not I would be allowed back in. They said I would. When I arrived back with other people, they said not only that would we not be able to bring in this food, which we had asked about, but also that we would not be able to come back in. I had to challenge specifically Senior Deputy Sheriff Clausel on that, and had to get Petra de Jesus and another senior deputy, Maxud, and I have the numbers for both of those officers, in order to be able to get back into the building. That if I hadn't done that, I would have been turned away. There was no notice of any sort that this was a temporary measure.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
I just have one more comment. I think the other thing we should ask is who ordered City Hall to be closed.
Yeah. Why was it on lockdown?
Yeah, well,
We know it was on
if
lockdown.
people are claiming that there was barrier, then who was providing the barrier? If the complaint is against the police commission, did the police commission order City Hall to be closed, or is this some part of general protocol of City Hall itself? So I think that's an important factor if there's going to be some discussion around barriers.
Okay, so would you like us to have Sergeant Kilshaw find out who ordered the
I think that would
building
be
to be put on
appropriate.
lockdown?
Mhm.
Thank you. 67.34 there needs to be a specific official department head or specific employee listed on the notice. This item was brought against the Police Commission, and that's not an individual employee. So 67.34 requires a specific person be held responsible, and no specific person was listed on this item. 67.34 requires specific notice to a specific official, department head, or city employee. No. Thank you. Can we call the roll?
On that motion, Member Hensy.
Aye.
Hensy, aye. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Wolf, aye. Chair Tesfa.
Aye.
Tesfa, aye. The motion passes. A notice will be provided when the matter is scheduled before the full task force.
I don't know kind of how we want to proceed with these. Do we want to have jurisdiction?
Next on the agenda, item number 7, complaint file number 17134, complaint filed by Thomas Bussey against the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.21, 67.24 GNI, 67.27 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and complete manner, and against the Office of the City Attorney for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.21I for acting as legal counsel for denying access to public records. Yes.
I would like to make an announcement about that matter. So we only have 15 minutes left for the meeting. So what we will be doing is listening to each of the items briefly to find jurisdiction, and then they will be rescheduled. So I want the parties to be aware of how we're going to have to handle these matters. So for item number 7, I would like the parties to speak to the determination of jurisdiction over this complaint from the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force.
I would also add in that the documents are public.
And that the
records.
documents are public. If you can briefly speak to those two issues.
Okay. Yes. The first is that the city attorney's ethically screened advisor to you on city attorney letterhead did agree that the jurisdiction applies. The city attorney, however, claims the task force lacks jurisdiction because finding a violation of 6721I would irreparably harm the attorney-client relationship for the legal services provided by the city attorney to other city agencies. But who hires the city attorney? We do. He's elected. And as an elected official, the city attorney has an inherent conflict of interest when advising other city departments regarding ethics, open meetings, and public records. To paraphrase the charter, the city attorney works for the people of the city, dispensing advice in furtherance of the people's interest, which may at times conflict with the interest of those who work for the people or his own political interest. The Ballot Simplification Committee in 1999 said of the proposed Sunshine Ordinance amendments, the city attorney could not give confidential advice to city officers or employees on matters concerning government ethics, public records, and open meeting laws. That was what was promised to the voters. In other words, the city attorney has an ethical duty to recuse himself from giving legal advice on these matters, and the Sunshine Ordinance clarifies and codifies this limitation to the otherwise broad counsel offered by the city attorney. Each city department has its own operating budget, and if it needs specific legal counsel in these areas, one option would be to engage it, and it has the court case law authority. The case is Cobra 1 City and County of San Francisco versus Cobra Solutions 2006. The 2014 SACRAW decision was an evidentiary decision. It only held that if records exist that are suspected to be of illegal confidential advice, they are not subject to discovery or admissible as evidence. That's all the decision has held, and I have created a circumstantial case here that public records were withheld and that the city attorney advised that they should be to the PUC. United States of America versus Zula Jones, 2002. This was a Fourth Amendment case where the city attorney consented to an FBI search of the Human Rights Commission, which was engaging in an Enron-like shredding operation to evade a subpoena served on the city attorney in her capacity as custodian of records. The court held, although the government attempts to argue that under the city charter, the city itself was the employer and that, therefore, the city attorney could consent to the search as an employer, the record does not support this conclusion. The HRC, while technically part of the city government, is a separate agency with its own authority and its own director. The HRC could have refused to cooperate with the investigation. Furthermore, the charter does not state that the city attorney has the power to step in and act as the employer. And the PUC's relationship is identical to the HRC's in that particular one. And in the meantime, the city attorney works for me and has an affirmative duty to seek disclosure from the PUC or hold his tongue. And the task force job is to advise the public about how to implement the Sunshine Ordinance. Finding a violation of 6721I furthers that goal.
Thank you.
There are 2 respondents.
Okay. Can we hear from the respondents?
Good evening. I'm Mary Ellen Carroll with the SFPUC. I won't be responding for the city attorney. They were here. He had to leave. The PUC's response is simply that we did invoke a specific exemption when we declined to disclose the records because the records have underlying public safety and security concerns. And that is our response.
Thank you.
At this time.
Will the second respondent please come forward?
I believe he left the room.
Okay. So here, I mean, the petitioner's comments were largely focused on 67.27, though I believe that we should be focusing more on 67.24G because we're talking about the disclosure of emergency action plans. So when we're trying to determine if the documents are public or not, we need to be focusing on the emergency action plans, which were the documents that were requested and were not disclosed. These documents appear to have been identified as within a specific exemption to the Public Records Act and to the Sunshine Ordinance. Do you have any further comments, members?
I would just, I think it would be very important for the respondents to cite what section of law and code protects either the information from being withheld and that attorney-client privilege was invoked and appropriate.
Do you have any other comments?
My answer was not included in the handbook, and I addressed this in the materials tonight. I submitted it in January.
Can you please provide the documents to the clerk so that he can review them and see if he's seen these before?
And she confirmed that she had received
Into the mic, please.
Speak into the microphone.
And when I walked in, she confirmed that she had received them. I had submitted them directly. And it talks about the problems of the exemption under the constitutional threshold of the Proposition 49.
I understand that, Mr. Bousset, but the burden is not on you for them to show whether they or they not applied it properly. It's good that you did, and you're providing us with essential information. But in order for them, the burden is always on the respondent who's citing that they are in compliance with the ordinance per some other section of the code that protects information from being withheld. And if the respondent is not going to provide that information, that's pretty essential to how we make our decisions.
So here I saw that there was an exemption that was listed based on the California Public Records Act that has to do with issues of safety and security. I would like to ask the Public Utilities Commission if you have any reference to the Sunshine Ordinance on this issue or an exemption that you can point to in the Sunshine Ordinance.
So it's Section 6254K of the Public Records Act and Section 67.27A of the Sunshine Ordinance, which we relied upon in the express exemption of state law, which is the 8589.5E of the California Government Code, to withhold emergency action plans.
Can you repeat that? Oh, just the last section.
Sure, the California Government Code.
Yeah.
It's 8589.5E of the California Government Code.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a motion to find jurisdiction?
I move to find jurisdiction.
Okay. Would you include that this document is public?
And documents are public.
Okay.
And then we can work on it from there.
Do we have any public comment on that motion?
Before we do that, may I make a suggestion that we also divide the file to have a separate complaint against the city attorney and one against the PUC, if at your discretion,
Yeah.
of course.
What was the complaint is made against who here?
One is against the
Utilities
SFPUC, and the other one's against the city attorney for
Was this combined?
acting as legal counsel. It was submitted as one complaint.
But were both respondents, with both named as respondents?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, then I would agree to that.
So I would like to include, would you like to include that in your motion?
Yeah.
Second?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Do we have any public comment on that motion? Seeing none, can we take this by acclamation?
The motion is adopted without objection.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is item number 8, file number 18005. This is for the purpose of determining whether or not the task force has jurisdiction. Complaint filed by Anthropo against Director Tom Ticagni and Kate Patterson and the Arts Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.4, 67.25, and 67.26, and 67.27.
I guess I get 3 minutes too.
For the purpose of jurisdiction only.
That guy had 3 minutes and argued the case. These are public documents. This is a department within your jurisdiction. I filed a complaint. It was open and closed and open and closed so many times, not published, never republished. I couldn't access the information. I have no idea what was sent. I sent a simple thing. The bottom line was there were 2 meetings on the same day, one in the Wharf and one at 401 Van Ness. Instead, it was a mishmash of sordid nonsense by Kate Patterson that generated probably 3,000 emails. And no, I did not get a response at the close of business the following day. Here's additional documents to support my claim.
Do we have anyone here to speak on behalf of the respondent? Seeing none, do we have any questions from the task force? So here we have a request for documents that are regarding these special meetings that were supposed to be posted in the meeting section of the website. I believe that these documents would be considered public, and we also have jurisdiction over the Arts Commission. So I would like to make a motion to find these documents to be public and to find that this organization has jurisdiction over the Arts Commission.
Second.
Go ahead. I defer.
Do we have any public comment on that motion? Seeing none, can we take this motion by acclamation?
That motion is adopted without objection.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, item 9, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items.
I don't have any, but Victor, it sounds like there were some missing documents from Mr. Boo as well as from Mr. Busey. If you could just review them.
Regarding to Mr. Bussey, it was in the file. I just checked, and it was there. In regards to Mr. Trabeau, I don't believe there was anything. It was regarding the 47 pages that is in question, and that is a disputed fact.
Different item. Okay.
I disagree.
The 47, are those 47, what is this document that's here? Is it yours?
This is
Do you want to
additional-
give those to us?
Yeah, I said that this is
I
regarding.
can only
this-
do one thing at a time. You can leave it there, and I will pick it up.
Okay, and so Victor, if you
That is
could...
for the current item, and that is not missing.
No, I
documents.
disagree.
Okay. Victor, if you could review those documents, and if they are not in the packet, if you could include them so that when we review this item, we have all of the documents
Yes.
together. Thank you.
I'm sorry. The items in question that were not included in the packet was a response that Kate Patterson made, did not included a PDF attachment. It was
that
in-
is part of the case.
I'm
That's
sorry,
not
I'm
able to speak.
speaking.
Ms. Trabeau.
You don't have any time to speak right now. The matter has been closed. I'm just making sure that all of the documents that you're leaving here will end up with your item, okay?
I did not get the response from the Arts Commission.
Trabeau,
it was
it's not your time to speak at this
on
time.
the PDF, and I did not
Ms.
receive
Trabeau.
it.
It's okay. You can cut the mic. We're done with that item. Can we move to the next item?
Adjournment.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.
The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Victor.